distinguished experts, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WIC workshop on developing responsible AI vision and practice. AI is transforming our societies and economics at an unprecedented pace. While it brings huge opportunities, it also presents new challenges. Ensuring AI is safe, reliable, human-centered is a mission we all share. That's why we brought together all your experts here at the AI for Good Summit. Today, we'll explore responsible AI's core principles, cutting-edge implementations, standards development, and governance pathways. First, it's my great pleasure to invite Mr. Francis Gowrie, Vice Chairman of the WIC and the former Director General of the WIPO, to deliver the opening remarks. Let's welcome.
Thank you very much, Xiaoli. And ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. It's really a privilege to be here and have this opportunity to listen, for me, essentially to the experts. So my remarks will be rather brief because it's more important that I think we hear from you, and I thank all of the speakers for joining us this morning. I think ever since Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley wrote her classic Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus, here in Geneva on during a rainy summer some 200 years ago in 1818, we have been transfixed by the possibility of the monster in the machine. And AI and AGI in particular have attracted a large number, perhaps an exceptionally large number of prophets of doom. And a number of them very eminent scientists or commentators like the late Stephen Hawking or the late Henry Kissinger, and perhaps provoked by the fact that AI carries the seed that has the potential to develop a capacity that up until now has been the exclusive preserve or domain of humans. Now, of course, reasonable risk assessment and careful management of threats and dangers are entirely appropriate, indeed necessary. However, excessive fear can constitute a real barrier to the deployment and further development of technologies that have and promise to have many beneficial social and economic effects. So it's very important for the success of AI, as well as, of course, for public safety and confidence and social cohesion, that we have the means to provide assurance to the general public that AI is being and will be deployed in a responsible manner. Now, approaches to providing this assurance are the subject of this morning's session, and at the moment, if we look around a very much divided world, unfortunately, there's no uniform approach to the question. Different instruments or methods are being used, including self-regulation, industry standards such as the ISO IEC 42001, the use of technological solutions to assist, and hard law. And different governance theories or principles underlie these different instruments that are being deployed around the world. And they range from the attempted comprehensive predictive approach of the European AI Act to more empirical problem-solving approaches. And once again, I think we find ourselves in a situation in which we have a globally deployed technology, but with no international solutions, and only some soft persuasion instruments such as those of UNESCO or the Council of Europe, and with little hope in the present international environment of finding the will and the capacity to forge a common approach. So this morning's discussion, I think, is extremely important, bringing together different international experts with different perspectives to see what common ground we can find to provide this very much needed assurance to the general public. And I'm very much looking forward to listening to you and to learning from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gowrie. We now begin our discussion. Start with topic 1, governance frameworks and technology ethics. First, please welcome Mr. Liang Hao, Executive Deputy Secretary General of the WIC, to share the WIC's work on responsible AI.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. It's a really great pleasure for me to be here with you in Geneva at the AI for Good Summit. On behalf of the WIC, I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you our insights, ongoing efforts, and long-term vision for developing responsible AI. In recent years, AI technologies has been advancing at an extraordinary pace, with its application rapidly transforming nearly every aspect of our work and daily lives. Here is what we are observing. Large AI models such as ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and Sora have become highly sophisticated in generating text, images, and even videos. AI-powered agents are being deeply integrated into sectors such as work, education, and healthcare, increasingly serving as efficient digital partners that help us accomplish tasks. And you see, in some mountainous scenic areas in China, exoskeleton robots are helping tourists climb with great ease. These robots are also showing significant promise in the field of physical rehabilitation. At the same time, the rapid rise of AI technology has brought significant risks. We are witnessing data breaches, deepfake scams, and the spread of misinformation online. Not long ago, there was a report that an OpenAI model failed to respond to a shutdown command, sparking serious concerns within the industry. The possibility of AI systems going out of control is becoming an increasingly pressing issue. That is why building responsible AI is not just necessary, but it is urgent. Around the world, there is growing consensus that AI must be developed responsibly. International organizations are actively working to establish common principles and standards for AI development. Major countries and regions are putting forward legal and ethical frameworks that encourage innovation while ensuring accountability. The WIC attaches great importance to the development and governance of AI. At our 2023 WIC Summit, we brought together more than 40 international experts to jointly shape a roadmap for responsible AI. The outcome was the research report and consensus on developing responsible generative AI. In this document, we advocate for generative AI that is reliable and controllable, transparent and explainable, protective of data privacy, inclusive and fair, clearly accountable and aligned with human values. WIC believes these principles provide the essential foundation of AI that truly serves humanity. The development of responsible AI still faces a number of challenges. First, concerns about safety and misuse are on the rise. AI systems are evolving rapidly, but not always safely. When trained on biased or flawed data, they can generate misleading or hallucinatory results that present false information as fact. Second, AI is reshaping how we interact with technology, raising serious ethical questions. As it gradually replaces certain human tasks, we risk becoming overly dependent on it. This could impact our critical thinking and interpersonal relationships. For instance, some young people now prefer chatting with AI over spending time with friends or family. Third, the rapid advancement in AI is posing new challenges for human development. Digital access remains deeply unequal around the world, and that gap is widening. AI is transforming the digital divide into an intelligence divide. A report released by the ITU in 2024 showed that around 2.6 billion people still lack internet access. That's nearly 1 in 3 people worldwide being left behind as AI advances. At the same time, AI is transforming the nature of work and employment. In certain industries, machines are beginning to replace human workers, from robots in factories to autonomous vehicles on roads. This is contributing to growing social inequality. There is also an environmental cost we cannot ignore. AI systems require massive amount of energy. To put it into perspective, training a cutting-edge AI model like GPT-4 consumes enough electricity to boil the water in roughly 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. When it comes to governance, the challenges posed by AI are becoming increasingly complex and far-reaching. These issues now have a direct impact on international relations and the well-being of people around the world. At present, global AI governance remains fragmented. While countries and organizations are making efforts individually, these initiatives often lack broad participation and coordination. As a result, we still do not have a universally accepted framework for governing AI on a global scale. This is why it is urgent to explore and design a comprehensive global framework for AI governance. Establishing effective international cooperation mechanisms is a crucial step towards building a shared future for all of humanity. Now, our practices. In response to these risks and challenges, the WIC has actively built platforms for dialogue on AI standards, safety and governance, and industry development. We've promoted the sharing of best practices and outcomes to help strengthen international consensus on responsible AI. Through our platform, we are deepening international exchanges and cooperation. Since its inception, the WIC has organized numerous international conferences focused on key issues in AI development and governance. The 2024 WIC Wuzhen Summit, held under the theme Embracing a People-Centered and AI for Good Digital Future, spotlighted AI and explored emerging trends in digital technology. More recently, in April this year, the WIC successfully hosted the Asia-Pacific Summit in Hong Kong. Participants engaged in in-depth discussions on how AI is empowering various industries, the evolution of large AI models, governance challenges, and pathways to global sustainable development. We are bringing together insights and expertise from across sectors to develop shared solutions. At last year's Wuzhen Summit, we established a specialized committee on AI. This committee brings together leading experts around the world. We are honored to have distinguished experts such as Professor Dame Wendy Hall, Mr. John Higgins, Dr. Sean O'Haggerty, and Mr. Zheng Yi, Mr. Wei Kai, serving in key roles on the committee. Since its launch, the committee has convened a series of workshops and seminars on critical topics, including AI for science, AI for health, and global AI standards development process. At our recent Asia-Pacific Summit in Hong Kong, the committee released its first major research outcome, the report on governing AI for good and for all, empowering global sustainable development. This report outlines actionable recommendations for leveraging AI to support global sustainable development. Key recommendations include promoting AI to contribute more fully and more effectively to the UN's SDGs, ensuring the inclusive sharing of AI benefits supporting developing countries in building affordable and sustainable AI capacity, and strengthening international cooperation mechanisms to safeguard AI for sustainable development. Third, we are putting AI for good into action and sharing what we've learned along the way. In 2023, the WIC launched the AI for Social Good program. This initiative highlighted successful global examples for AI being used to deliver public services that benefit all of society. Based on these insights, we proposed an action plan to promote the positive and ethical development of AI. At last year's Ujin Summit, we announced 20 winners of our awards for pioneering science and technology, with many of the recognized projects focused on AI applications. These breakthroughs span exciting frontiers such as brain-inspired computing, embodied intelligence, and high-performance chips. We are witnessing remarkable AI-driven innovation and services, from AI-powered PCs and intelligent agents to humanoid robots and next-generation AI assistants that collaborate with us in daily life. Well, looking back, we can see how the internet has brought the world closer together. Looking ahead, we believe AI will connect us even more deeply and help us build a shared future for all. With this vision in mind, we would like to share our perspective and suggest a few pathways forward. First, we need to adopt a people-centered approach and work to bridge the digital and intelligence divides. We must actively pursue people-oriented AI development to ensure that AI truly serves the common good. That means developing AI solutions tailored to each country's unique context and needs. Countries should collaborate on AI education. Technologically advanced nations can open doors for talent exchange with developing countries. Together, we can launch capacity building initiatives to explore affordable and sustainable ways to make AI benefits more widely accessible. Second, we must ensure that the benefits of AI are shared by all and that we build an open, inclusive, and sustainable ecosystem. This requires joint efforts among research institutions, enterprises, and governments around the world to advance foundational AI research. We need stronger international cooperation in critical areas like education, healthcare, climate action, and culture. We should actively promote international standards for AI data, algorithms, platforms, and applications to reduce technical barriers to cross-border collaboration. Third, we should embrace multilateralism and work toward a collaborative, inclusive governance system. We support a multilateral cooperation framework with the United Nations at its core and believe it is time to take concrete steps toward strengthening global AI governance under this framework. We should deepen our collaboration in key areas such as risk monitoring and evaluation, safety management, ethical alignment, and the interoperability of technical standards across borders. The World Internet Conference will continue to serve as a global platform for extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits. We are committed to working with the international community to promote the responsible development of AI. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also pleased to announce that our annual WIC Ujin Summit will take place in November. You are warmly invited to join us for this important gathering. We look forward to welcoming you in the beautiful water town of southern China to exchange ideas and shape a shared vision for the future of AI. Thank you all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Liang. Next, please welcome Mr. Werner Fredericks, Strategy and Operations Head of ITUT. Right?
Yes, thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you, Mr. Liang, because I think you captured the essence and the spirit of AI for Good in your presentation. And I always say AI for Good, it's more than a summit, it's a platform, it's a movement, it's a community, and it would be nothing without all of you, and especially the support of WIC. And then also, basically, AI for Good, how do we do this? We can't do this alone. And it was created in 2017. And back then it was on the fear and the promise of AI to advance and solve most of the world's most pressing problems. And as we've seen AI for Good evolve from a small, modest summit in the ITU headquarters, about 400 or 500 people, going to CICG, where we went up to 5,000 people. And then during COVID, we had to reinvent ourselves to an online platform community with 45,000 members from 190 countries. And then finally coming here with, yesterday we had 16,000 registrations. I think that's testament to the importance of AI and how it's affecting our lives and the interest in AI. And how can we do this? Well, we can't do this alone. So we have 53 UN sister agencies, specialized agencies, offices. I can't believe it took this for me to meet Mr. Grihi for the first time. He was our former neighbor, I think looking into our offices for several years. But that's just a good example of our collaboration. And WIPO's been involved with our AI for Health initiatives. And if you were watching the main stage last night, a lot of the topics on deepfakes, on content authenticity, on the music industry, those narratives have been very well fed and informed also by WIPO from an intellectual property perspective. So that's just one of many, many examples of how AI for Good is a catalyst, if you will, for bringing people together. And what's been interesting over the years is seeing really the evolution from the fear and the promise of AI, and then having that aha moment in 2023. No one knew when it would come. It came in 2023 with generative AI, and now with the rise of autonomous AI agents, but also, as Mr. Liang said, the physical manifestation of AI in the form of AI robotics, autonomous vehicles, which you can see in the exhibit area, and also brain-computer interfaces, which are all major themes of the conference this year, which brings us to the topic of responsible AI. So I'm, again, very grateful for your support to bring this together, many different profiles. And exploring the pathways to responsible AI is arguably the defining challenge of our technical era. It demands more than technical prowess. It demands global dialogue and shared ethical frameworks and collaborative action. And that's precisely why we have this workshop here today, convened at the nexus of global AI stakeholders that is so vital. It brings together diverse perspectives to confront the hard questions of how do we ensure fairness, how do we build trust, how do we maximize the benefit while minimizing harm. And your dedication to these topics is why AI for Good resonates powerfully with our core. And also, I would like to add to this that, we're talking about ethics, governance principles, and I think through this initiative, WIC, AI for Good, your work in WIPO, and I know you've had many hats over your career, all of these dialogues, I think, are super important. But how do you translate these, let's say, ambitious words, thinking like great collaborative ideas into action? And I think, the devil is in the details, and standards have details. How can you turn words, ethical principles, into technical specifications and protocols? And I think that's where standards plays a very important role. Last year's AI Governance Day, we were able to bring together the major governance processes from around the world, from China, from UK, from US, EU, Korea, Japan, but also making sure that developing countries were at the table. And one of our catchphrases was, how do we go from principles to implementation? And I think one of the conclusions of the day is that standards is not the only tool, but a very important tool to leverage to turn these principles into implementation. And we've been building these standards under the umbrella of World Standards Cooperation with ISO-IC, but also bringing many other regional and national standards bodies to the table, and we're going to have a day dedicated to standards on Friday. So if you're still here Friday, I think many of the people in this audience would really value that, and it's a full day on the main stage. So basically at ITU through AI for Good, we have an unwavering commitment to turning these principles into tangible actions. And our platform is basically built on a multi-stakeholder collaboration connecting UN agencies, governments, industry, academia, civil society, NGOs, but also being open to media, to artists, creatives, children, if you've seen in the exhibit hall, because I think also bringing the voice of the youth to the summit is incredibly important. And we actively facilitate practical project development, including AI solutions with global challenges in health, in climate, and sustainable development, and always guiding principles of responsible AI design behind all of these activities. We foster critical discussions on AI governance, ethics, inclusivity, providing a neutral place and platform that's open to everyone for these practices to emerge. And crucially, we work to amplify diverse voices, ensuring developing nations and marginalized communities have a seat at the table. I think that's very central to the philosophy of AI for Good, and I think it's also very central to what you're trying to do with the WIC. So why does this matter? Because truly responsible AI cannot be developed in isolation. I think if you build AI on narrow data sets with narrow expertise and narrow contexts, you basically end up with narrow solutions that are not fit for purpose in many parts of the world, starting with language. Most of the solutions are trained on English, which, it's a good start, but there's many, many other languages and dialects in the world, in the thousands. And we're going to be having AI for Good Impact Africa, October 31st, where that theme will be central to the things we're trying to solve there through that Impact Africa ahead. So looking ahead, the complexity and pace of AI evolution demand even deeper international cooperation. So the leadership shown by the World Internet Conference in organizing this workshop really exemplifies the proactive, solution-oriented approach that we need. And our hope, and indeed our call to action, is for more visionary organizations like WIC to join hands closely with ITU and our UN partners and leverage all of our complementary strengths. So what are these strengths? So let's align our initiatives to avoid duplication and maximize impact. Let's share knowledge and insights on regulatory frameworks and ethical guidelines. Let's co-create capacity building programs, especially for regions that need greater support. And let's champion interoperable standards that underpin safe and trustworthy AI globally. So the journey towards responsible AI is a shared journey. I think it's all of us in the room have a stake in the future of that outcome, and no single entity holds all of the answers. And by combining the reach, expertise, convening power of organizations like WIC and the ITU, we can build robust, inclusive, ethical foundations for AI that truly serve all of humanity. So with that, I thank all of you for your commitment. Let's make this workshop a powerful catalyst, a magnet for responsible AI for the future. And I wish you all a highly productive discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Fredericks. Next, please welcome Dame Wendy Hall, co-chair of WIC Specialized Committee on AI, Regius Professor of Computer Science, and the Director of the Web Science Institute at the University of Southampton, to share her ideas on responsible AI.
Thank you. Hello. First of all, it's a huge privilege to be here. I've been involved with this with WIC for a year now because of Yi Zheng, who is not here to listen to what I'm saying. Where is he? Where's he gone? And this is the first time I've got to meet people, because I haven't been able to make the meetings in China. So it's great, really great to be here and meet everybody. And there's so much to say, and I've only got 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But, so when they ask for a title, which isn't in here, I note, I gave my title as From Hype and Doom to the Reality of Responsible AI. And I see, also I note, I don't know what technology ethics means. Technology doesn't have any ethics, right? we have to, yeah, so I wasn't sure what you meant. So perhaps there's no time for discussion here, but I'd love to know over lunch maybe what you mean by technology ethics. But anyway, that aside, I would like to thank, I'm sorry, Francis, it's the first time we've met, but I'd like to thank you particularly because you've saved me a good 5 minutes on my talk. You said in a few minutes what it took Kieran O'Hara and I 400 pages to say in our book on 4 internets, and you know, I got into this world very much, well, A, because I wrote the UK's first national strategy on AI, but that aside, wrote a book called The Geopolitics. It's called 4 Internets, and it's about the geopolitics of the internet. And you summed it up very well, so I don't, we have a world, you know, it's no coincidence that the key players in the AI world are the hyperscalers, the big tech companies who grew on top of the internet because they have the data, they have the engineering skills, and they have the money to build the generative AI, largely. I mean, OpenAI needed money from Elon Musk, big debate about that now, and then it got money from Microsoft, but they're, of course, part of the internet hyperscaling. And so, you know, it is no coincidence that it is that world. I call them the tech bros, and I'll come back to that later, the tech brothers, who are driving this revolution. And the culture of the area, the region of the world in which they are running their companies, really dominates their whole thinking. And as you just, you know, we had the original open internet, which was 50 years old last year. You know, and I worry that what we're doing with AI is killing the internet, by the way. There's a big worry about that, killing the integrity of the internet, because the AI makes stuff up, and that all goes on the internet. So what happens to truth? What do we trust? And the internet is only 50 years old, right? We are potentially killing something that's so powerful, and yet in such a short space of time, we are potentially poisoning it, like we have our physical planet. So this is something I think we have to do under responsible AI that people don't even think about. We just assume the internet's going to be a force for good forever, and we can't assume that. And of course, then the regional differences are the way that the countries are governed, the geopolitics, the politics of the regions. So, you know, the US is all about the commercial. That's where in the Western world, that's all the big companies are. And we've had Trump saying no regulation, although that's going backwards and forwards in Congress. And then the EU, who were first movers on the AI regulation stakes, but they've just had a letter from many of the big companies in Europe saying, hang on, right? This is going to do us a lot of harm. So this is, you know, it's not, many of us predicted this, but that's the reality of the situation there. Then we have China, of course, which I hugely respect in terms of, actually, I believe China is ahead of the game in terms of the regulation of AI. But of course, you have to set that in the context of how the Chinese government operates in terms of data. And then we have the people who seek to use the technology, whether it was the internet or now AI running across the internet, because of course the internet is, you know, all the GPTs rely on the internet, all the generative AI companies rely on the internet to get the data. They're running out of data. What are we supposed to do? Produce more for them? Write more? Well, we're going to use the generative AI to write more, and it makes mistakes. That's the problem, okay? That is the problem. It is a vicious downward spiral. I can't say it more clearly than that. That's what we're facing. Anyway, so I'm really quite passionate about this. But of course, in the AI world now, there are people who seek to do harm, either to other countries they disagree with, or to the world in general, because they're, for whatever reasons, you know, countries like Russia. I won't list them all here. There's some, the powers that want to use AI against other countries as part of wars, cybersecurity, for dangerous activities, dangerous to the world. And of course, we have huge inequalities. We've mentioned them. The global south, people, a third of the world is still not on the internet, and now we're saying to them, well, you're not going to have AI either. Sorry. Because they're not involved in any of the discussions. You had them here at AI for Good. We included it in, the other thing I want to reference for it is the, I've known Yizheng for a long time, actually. He tells me I've known him since he was a PhD student, and I probably have. But we worked together on the UN H-Lab for AI. And the report was called Governing AI for Humanity, and we made sure, or the people who organised it made sure that there were representatives from, we couldn't have every country clearly, but from the global south, from the developing world. And a key part of the recommendations of the report was making sure, or ensuring that the global south, the developing world, is involved in AI. And of course, like they are in other things, they might leapfrog us, right? As some of the countries have in terms of using mobile phones. India did, to leapfrog what we can do in the West. They're in advance of us in many ways on the internet and coming up on AI. And so I'm passionate about how we make AI good for the whole world, and we don't destroy our digital planet in the way we're destroying our physical planet, because that is what we are potentially doing, apart from all the doom-mongers who say this stuff is going to get more intelligent and therefore it's an existential threat. Now, I happen to believe Stephen Hawking, it was one of the last things he talked about before he died was AI, and he said, quite logically, as he always did, if we build machines, software and machines that are more intelligent than us, whatever that means, then we are, as a race, dead, because they won't need us. If they can replicate themselves, if they can not switch off the old the film 2001, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that thing, then yes, we are doomed. And we need to understand what we are doing in rushing headlong into developing technology. At the moment, I'm in the camp that says that current technology isn't going to harm us at all, except the biggest threat is what I think we're doing to the internet with it. I think we are destroying. Where are our kids going to get truth from? Whatever. I mean, truth is different for different people in different countries, but there are certain things which, you need, you want to know that you're getting the right sort of answers. So this comes to my last. I don't know how long I've had. How long have I got? Anyone timing me? I could talk forever. All right. I really could talk forever about this stuff. I'm going to finish with a couple of things. One is my friend Sue Black in the UK gave a fantastic talk at the Doha AI Summit last year about how responsible AI is AI plus education. Now, that is a very, very simple equation for everybody to understand. Responsible AI, I'd like WIC to think about adopting this, because we don't have a definition of responsible AI. We talk about it very glibly, but what do we actually mean? It's like you mentioned, Francis, AGI, right? Which I think the companies, AI, they all claim to have got to AI, so they have to invent another threshold to get to. And Demis Hassabis, a friend of mine, he says, DeepMind's going to get to AGI. They don't define what AGI is, and they move the goalposts all the time, right? And actually, they move them near us. They say, we've got to AGI, now we're going to go to super. Well, what does it mean? And how does it compare to our intelligence? Well, these are questions we don't have answers to, because we don't know what intelligence is, right? Coming back to what is responsible AI, because of all the political differences that in the short term, I very much hope that the UN can can lead in this area. And WIC, working with the UN, as you said, the ITU, but there's a, with Trump coming in, the UN is not what it was. And they don't have any money. So, the things that need to be done require funding. And these are the realities of the situation. We can talk about it in the abstract for as long as we want. But if we can't undertake the projects, then we can't make any progress. So you've got that issue. But I stand by the framework that the report that the H Lab in AI produced for the UN as a good framework to work to. And I hope we'll be able to do that. And I really, really hope that the WIC will be able to support the UN and the AI for Good community in doing that. But actually, in reality, we are facing, the real players in this game, forgive me, are not here. The big companies are not here. The people, the governments, you have had meetings with them. You got the standards on Friday, great. But actually, the companies are just headlong into competition, being the first to get here, there, and everywhere. So they talk about being responsible, but it's just talk. And what we need to do is get under the bonnet of that. I recently visited Google, where they took me through how they test Gemini, which of course comes from DeepMind, and I was very impressed, actually. And I think we need to push hard on quite lightweight auditing. I like to talk about auditing, so that the companies can be held to account by governments in the different parts of the world to say to be open and transparent about what they're doing, so that they can talk about how they test, evaluate, red team, all the things you would expect in a potentially dangerous industry, like you do in the aircraft industry or the pharmaceutical industry or the food security industry or all the industries that could potentially kill us. Yeah? I think that's what we should be pushing for, is things that are pretty lightweight, that people can sign up to quite quickly without waiting for the engines of governments to have endless discussions that go nowhere. Right? I hope things will come out of the summits, but look what happened at the Paris summit. Right? The US and UK didn't sign up for different reasons, but how does that help the world? Right? I'm looking to the India summit to hopefully get some agreement, but it's so slow. Meanwhile, the technology just whoosh. Right? So I am with Sue Black. Responsible AI is AI plus education, and what we mean by that is that we need to educate people, all the stakeholders, governments and industry, into thinking about what responsible AI, what we should be doing to ensure that the AI that's being developed and that we're using with such haste is not doing harm. And my last point, and I will pick WIC up on this, is diversity. 50% of the planet is female. Where is the female voice in all this? Nowhere, right? Nowhere. You talk about a people-centered approach. I see very few women in your people-centered approach. You talk about society. I see very few women in the representation of society around any of the tables I attend. Yes, love, women organizing, but actually, in terms of running the companies, being at the table when we're talking about regulations, where are we? I have been fighting. I've been working in this area, in computing for 40 years now. And I wrote my first paper about the lack of women in computing in 1987. And what has changed? Nothing. So we need a voice that brings all the voices to the table. It isn't just about the developing world, it's about society, right? It's women that are often responsible for education, for children. We absolutely have to have the women's voice at the highest, at the top tables in all this. And I will try and hold WIC to account on that one. I work with you to try, and I used to have a mantra when this is my last point really, when people ask me about ethical AI, we used to talk a lot about ethical AI. I actually don't use the word ethical much because that's so abstract. I think you said it, Francis, actually, as well. We're into now, we've got to implement and build things and in a trustworthy way. So my mantra was always, if it's not diverse, it's not ethical. Because my argument is, if you haven't got diverse, and I hold, the companies, it's so lacking in diversity, and they create toxic environments for women to work in. And if my argument is, if you haven't got diversity in the teams that are building the things, in designing for the future, thinking about responsibility, then you're doing it in an unethical way. So I'm going to finish there. Sorry to be a bit controversial, but thank you very much for listening. Well, you're next. Thank you. What? Good.
Thank you very much. The talks this morning have been inspiring, although I feel like Wendy and myself have come from rainy England with a little bit more of a kind of dose of pessimism and perhaps a little bit of panic. We're here, of course, to launch a strategic dialogue on responsible AI governance and to ensure that AI is developed safely and to the benefit of all of global society. But we can't do that without, as Wendy has laid out, acknowledging the scale of the challenge in front of us. And this won't be a talk that offers all the solutions, but I think there are a few things that need to be said. In my view, AI governance is in crisis. The last few years have seen hundreds of billions of dollars invested in advancing the frontier of AI. The CEOs of these companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepMind, they're all predicting artificial general intelligence within the next 18 months to 5 years. But funding into the safety of these systems, the evaluation of them hasn't kept pace even fractionally. And we're seeing increasingly alarming examples of deception, scheming, misalignment as we develop systems that have a more sophisticated range of behaviors. But yeah, the funding for academic work to provide independent assessment and evaluation is not keeping pace even fractionally, whether on catastrophic risk or on ethics and governance more generally. Meanwhile, the investments that are flowing into these companies has increased massively. And moreover, the funding going from tech companies into policy lobbying and dark money advertising campaigns in the US and Europe has shot up through the roof. It feels like a David versus Goliath situation. Lobbying nearly resulted in general purpose AI being excluded from the AI Act a few years ago. I think, what's the point of an EU AI Act without general purpose AI in it? And as Wendy says now, the EU is under tremendous pressure, week on week, from companies to delay or water down the implementation of the Act. In the US, the previous administration's executive order, which would have placed monitoring and oversight measures on the biggest models, has been repealed. Every week, companies use the need to win the so-called AI race to justify whatever benefits them directly. For OpenAI, it's access to copyright data and light touch voluntary commitments instead of actual regulation. For Anthropic, its energy infrastructure, and procurement of AI, including their own technology, across government, including in safety-critical domains such as security. Meta have been putting tens of millions of dollars of dark money into American Edge ad campaigns to block state-level regulation on AI, making sure that politicians hear the message over and over again that the US shouldn't regulate AI because China won't regulate AI. Now, even cursory research would make clear that this isn't true. As Wendy's just pointed out, China is actually developing comprehensive laws and regulation for its tech companies. In the UK, we've been promised a frontier AI bill for what feels like most of my adult life at this point. It's been delayed and delayed, and if it ever comes out, it feels like it's going to be significantly watered down. Over the last 3 years, we've seen XAI and Google defang, defund, and defenestrate their responsible AI teams. Last night, XAI released an update of Grok. I don't know if any of you have seen the way it behaves. It's grotesquely anti-Semitic. And there will be no consequences to this. Meta, Google, OpenAI have revised their policies to remove commitments not to use AI for military purposes. But we're to believe that voluntary commitments from these companies can be relied on and are sufficient for the governance of what some experts think will be the most powerful and dangerous technology in history. This is crisis. So where can the international agreements and pressure come from? The global partnership on AI has basically made itself irrelevant, in part by bowing to pressure not to include certain countries. Last I heard, it had been folded back into the OECD. The AI safety series no longer seems to be about safety. The last one in Paris felt to me like an investment pitch for the French tech sector and European AI.
Yes, it was.
Plug, baby, plug. Yeah. Prior to that, Seoul, 20 companies signed up to the Frontier AI safety commitments. But a year has passed, and Mistral, Zipu, OpenAI, Minimax, and other companies haven't yet published their safety frameworks. The UN has long had a claim to be the most representative and legitimate venue for global agreements, and has been doing great work through the ITU, the High-Level Advisory Board, as Wendy said, and other efforts. But, as Wendy said, it's facing its own funding crisis, and that's inevitably going to affect its capabilities. So where does that leave us? Academia is being starved of resources. Civil society is under threat. Governments are increasingly bowing to pressure from these companies. And the most relevant international bodies are being hobbled or derailed. At the same time, the most powerful, the biggest companies are becoming far more powerful, and the technologies they're putting out into the world are far more powerful. And if their CEOs are even half right, then what's to come will challenge global society even more than anything we've yet seen. I don't have the solutions to all of this, but I think the problems are worth stating. Again, I feel like I'm echoing Wendy a lot, but if we pretend everything is fine, we just end up rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Any framework we come up with needs to reflect the reality we're in, and it needs to work with the constraints that we're under or fix those constraints. We need to figure out how to make our proposals work, which pathways and which organizations they need to go through, and how they can wield and influence power, whether in small ways or big. Because there are things that we can do, and there are reasons for optimism. Meta's dark money didn't buy them a moratorium on regulation at a state level in the US. 99-1 voted against last week. The companies weren't successful in getting general purpose AI removed from the EU AI Act. Following the Paris Investment Roadshow, Singapore stepped up and hosted a conference to get the international safety conversation back on track. There are roles that we can play. Ultimately, I do think that frontier AI governance needs binding international agreements that get implemented in national regulation. And that includes external evaluation and auditing, as Wendy has mentioned. There are important steps that we can take here. The ITU has an essential track record on best practices and standards. The technical details of those best practices can become an essential foundation for those future agreements. And the representation we have here at ITU can be a proof of principle that global agreement can be reached on what's needed. The WIC's report, which you have in front of you, demonstrates comprehensively that AI can be a force for good. It can address global environmental harm, poverty, and provide empowered participation from global majority countries in how AI is developed, not just in how AI is done to us. But we all need to act to ensure that these are the priorities. They won't happen by default. We can demonstrate to our governments that the only race we are interested in is a race to the top, on safety, on using AI for good, and on meaningful and empowered global governance. The work of the ITU, the World Internet Conference, and all of you as individual experts has never been as essential, as urgent, or as important as it is now. AI governance is, I believe, in crisis, but every crisis is an opportunity to achieve change. So let's do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. John. Finally, for this topic, Mr. Zheng Yi, co-chair of WIC on AI, professor at Chinese Academy of Science, will share his point, AI for Sustainable Development.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be invited for this event, and I'm really glad that my fellow colleague, Professor Wendy Hall, to co-chair the AI Specialized Committee of WIC together with me, and also Sean Wahegatek to work with me for the AI Safety and Governance program. And you see that now we have very good reasons to invite them to really lead the effort. So I'm gonna complement by talking about also about the current state and what we can actually do together. So I'm using the topic of governing AI for sustainable development. I think, like my colleague said, that the development of AI, we need a direction. I'm always asking, where are you going for China AI? Are you really working for, the China AI is only for China, or, it's for some other directions? So I'm really glad that at this very starting point for the National Development Plan in China for AI, we talk about, the China AI is for global sustainable development and for a shared future. So I think this is really important. What do we mean by global sustainable development, shared future? And by that, we don't need yet another definition. And as you can see, here is what we have agreed at the occasion of the United Nations. And I also wanted to emphasize, now when we are talking about AI, it's no longer only about scientific AI. When we go back to good old-fashioned AI decades ago, and now AI is an umbrella term with connections to each and every of the pillars here. The importance of realizing this is that by governing AI, it doesn't mean you're governing a scientific AI efforts. You're governing a umbrella term that is all that are related to each and every of the efforts. So that means failure of any of these topics will lead to a failure of governing AI. So I think this is really important to get to know. And by the efforts of the World Internet Conference here, we actually analyze all the web pages on the UN website, and how are they really related to different pillars of sustainable development goals. And then we found that they're not really isolated. By being a success of one pillar here, you're also contributing to some other pillars. Well, failure of the topics for one pillars will also need a failure of other topics. So I think this is really important. And within the report, as you can see on your table, that we surveyed the different pillars of how AI is contributing to these different pillars. And as you can see, most contribution goes for AI for education, for healthcare, and for industry innovation, but not the other pillars. So this is really, I think this is disappointing, as Wendy said, that we need inclusivity. So does AI really contributing, let's say, for AI for gender balance? Not so much. AI for climate actions and AI for biodiversity conservation, also not too much. So I think this is the current state that has to be changed. AI for healthcare and AI for climate and AI for education has been the current focus. One of the reasons is that you can make a lot of money from it. One of the reasons is that the short-term benefit that the companies can get from this domain. So we have to be very frank that not so many organizations are taking care of most long-term topics for the rest of the pillars. For that, we'll have to make a change. So my colleague, Sean, also talked about the current state of international AI governance. So we're doing a new version of the AI Governance International Evaluation Index. I'm going to show you some first findings. So one is, of course, AI governance is related to AI development level, while on the other side, we're evaluating AI governance from the governance environment, governance instrument, and governance effectiveness point of view. So some of the countries are doing better, but not the others. I'm gonna echo of the changes. So one of the example is that, so who is showing more governance, who is showing more AI risks? As you can see, for the pillars of AI governance environment, actually the United States have the most significant risks to be shown in their industry, while China is also not doing well, because China being the second for exposing more risks for industry AI, but they may work a little bit better on other pillars. So for that, the conclusion is still countries like China, US, Germany, UK, and Singapore have been ranked to the first highest. Well, on the other side, we'll also see the problems. The problem for the current AI governance is that it's truly imbalanced. And actually, it's positive relevant to the GDP per capita. This is very bad in a way that although the development level of a country for their AI can be varied because of the GDP per capita, but it doesn't mean the preparedness of safety and governance should be like that. So this is what I'm saying. For these countries who has been left behind, has to move their levels of safety and governance a lot more advanced so that you're not going to be hurt. You're more ready from the perspective of safety and governance. So I think this is really important. And also, like my colleague also emphasized, that the imbalance of the policy for some of the countries make them left behind a little bit for this year. So this is what we have for now. This is what has to be changed. Talking from a more empirical point of view, I think Sean mentioned the performance of most recently released large language models. Based on our analysis of the safety evaluations, and as you can see, that they're all in service of the current web, while on the other side, from the safety point of view, it's really imbalanced. And also, the most recent released models does not show better safety evaluation result. So this is very important. They're not really getting better and better. The most recently released models, no matter whether they're from the United States or from China, they're not showing significant improvement from safety. So that has to be changed.
There's no driver for them to do that. That's the problem.
And the difference, as you can see, the best model and the worst model can show a more than 20 times of the differences for the safety evaluation result. So for that has to be changed. And then they will argue, well, we don't have that much money to put to safety and governance, so you will have to make it we'll make a more advanced model in advance, and then to power up the development. No, it's not the case. So actually our result shows that, well, you can keep safety and capacity at the same time. So we developed one method called jailbreak antidote for each and every of the large language models. And we show that without negative side effect to the performance of the model, you can raise the level of the safety for more than 40% for each and every of these language models. So I'm a scientist myself, so I'm showing you scientific result. That shows that safety and capacity can be achieved at the same time without too much cost, actually. You don't have to retrain your model, and you can get a lot safer model. This is what I'm saying. So be frank. What I'm saying is that be frank as a scientist, as industry practitioners, that it is our duty to keep the AI models to be ethical and safe in the first place, to be as a first principle, and that does not have significant negative side effect for the performance of AI. I'm gonna end by emphasizing about the current complex situation of the global governance, that we agree that there should be a central role of the United Nations to create and weave a global network for governing AI. But I'm going to emphasize that different branches of the United Nations has to cooperate in a very close way to solve the current very imbalanced efforts that has been made, and then to play a central role to connect each and every of the rest of the dots within this web of efforts. The role of G20, G7, and BRICS is very different compared to the United Nations, but they are complementing with each other. While on the other side, the role of ISO and WIC also contribute in a nice way to complement with what the UN and what the BRICS and G20 and G7 is working. So I don't see that they're competing with each other. What I see is with all the efforts weaved together, that is the right way for global governance of AI. Let me end by saying I don't like the slogan of making AI everywhere. So I'm going to say it's still a human society and an ecological world. It can be assisted by AI, but not driven by AI. Yeah? We do not need AI everywhere. So responsible and steady development, proper use of AI, and that will lead to AI for human and ecology good, both for the near term and for the long term. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Zheng. Let's now turn to topic 2, global collaboration and industry practice. First, please welcome Mr. Wei Kai, Vice Chair of WIC on AI, Director of the Research Institute of CAICT, to share practice of AI governance in China.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, it's my great honor to share some of the view from China industrial perspective and the practice in the real world. I'm also one of the convener of the standard program together with Mr. John Higgins beside me in WIC. So we are doing a lot of work to analyze the global AI governance initiatives and standardization in WIC. So in the future, if I have some occasion to introduce the that group, that outcome of the group, I think this time I will focus on the industrial practices of China AI governance. So as you can experience and also showed in many of the benchmark exercise in China, we see a very rapid evolution and iteration of AI capability. According to the function benchmark, a large model benchmark designed by China Academy of Information and Communication Technology, my organization, the comprehensive score of the foundation large language model has improved by 35% since last year. Just 1 year, 35% for the foundation LLM, and also we see a very incredible increase on the reasoning model score, about 55% since the end of the last year. Half year increased 35% for the reasoning language model, and we also see a very rapid increase on the capability of multimodality model especially for the multimodal content reasoning and understanding increased by 19% last year. So I think the main factor of driving this progress, including more high-quality training data, large computing power, computational power, and novel training algorithm, including reinforced learning. So looking ahead, according to OpenAI's AGI roadmap proposed last year, achieving general purpose artificial intelligence requires progressing through 5 phases they proposed. Currently, I think AI technology has advanced from level 1, chatbots, to level 3, agents, with entities like the super agents like Manners, Deep Research, and Cursor for coding, demonstrating increasingly strong autonomy, representing the cutting edge of today's AI capability. So I think the next step is advancing toward L4, level 4, to become an innovation assistant. Reaching this milestone, it could be make intelligence a tipping point in the future. I think the addition of OpenAI drawn a very broad discussion in the community. So looking ahead, a critical question emerged: what kind of AI system should we develop, and how do we define our goal and vision, and what technical pathway should we pursue? As Mr. Professor Stato Russell emphasized, an urgent challenges we must address is ensuring the future super intelligence machine are probable, beneficial to humanity. So that's the main question for us to think. And currently, we see that AI security and safety risks is coming from fiction to reality. As AI get more widely used, its security risks aren't just theoretical anymore. We're seeing real-world consequences more and more. There are some bad examples. For example, teenagers have killed themselves after becoming emotional dependent on AI chatbots. It's real-world cases. And scammers have fixed leaders' voice using AI to trick people. and self-driving cars have broken unexpectedly on highways, causing crashes, accidents. So what's more, we are seeing serious technology flaws like the Ollama vulnerability. Ollama is a very popular open source infrastructure for inference of LLM. At the beginning of this year, this kind of open source software was found a vulnerability that allowed hackers to hijack computational power from thousands of devices globally, then causes show globally and consistently by the users. So these cases show AI risks are just one single problem and the whole challenge, and we need to tackle for the future for the humanity. And the security risk of AI, I think it spans multiple levels from technological system risks to the individual's organizational and national society and extend across diverse domains such as privacy, ethics, politics, and economics. So different stakeholders prioritize different experts necessitating consideration at varying levels. So major global economics are also implementing governance framework tailored to their local context to collectively addressing their multidimensional challenges. So from our perspective, China places a high priority on the secure development of AI, proposed the AI governance initiative, and initially establishing aligned agile governance mechanisms. So making forward, I know I will not develop into detail in the policy and regulation perspective. Instead, I will draw some the practical experiences of China industrial sector to illustrate how Chinese enterprises collectively, collaboratively putting into practice the vision of developing responsible AI. So first of all, from China industry point of view, we think AI governance continues a complex system design endeavor that must be approached with a holistic perspective. We need to have a systematic view of AI governance. I think it requires coordinated advancement across multiple dimensions, including we need to put in the ethical principle we shared from different communities at the center of the AI governance. And we need to put regulatory guidance, academic research, standard setting, and public literacy, corporate self-discipline, and testing, verification, etc. So I think we need to reach a consensus agreement on this kind of a systematic view of how to governance the AI technology and application in the future. I don't want to go into the detail of each pillar of this AI governance system. So I think for each of them is equally important to implement. For example, public literacy is very important because we need to promote AI safety, awareness, and encourage responsible use for the general public. So that's the system view of the China industry perspective. And at the very beginning, Ms. Liang already introduced initiatives a lot advanced in WIC on AI governance. Chinese companies very actively participate the WIC global AI governance initiatives, we collectively participate the white papers and standard collaboration activities in WIC. So I think it's a very good hub to communicate with a global industry. And as for the standardization part, I think in March 2025, the Ministry of Industry and Information took two major steps to advance the AI governance. First, they set up the AI technical committee, standardization technical committee, and at the same time, they put the guidance of construction of AI safety governance standard system in the field of industry and information technology. And this standardization initiative is about using standard to support pushing technology trustworthy and promote enterprise development and guiding the industry to update the making sure the industry safe and secure use of AI. In our standard promotion group, I and myself and Mr. John Higgins leading, we solicited the global initiative from different SDOs to see what's the overlap and what's the gap in the global AI governance standardization currently. We are planning to publish a report in the name of WIC standardization group at the end of this year. In December 24, the Artificial Intelligence Industry Alliance, which have more than 1,000 membership in China, called on 17 enterprises to sign the very first AI safety commitments in China. These companies made 6 commitments, including setting up safety and security risks management mechanisms and protect data security and make their models more transparent. This effort brings together industry self-regulation and governmental guidance, helping build a solid framework for AI governance in the future. And for the next step, we are proceed the disclosure of the commitment, the commitment of each enterprise. We will release the first phase of the disclosure information next week in China, and we have another big announcement in the WIC, I think, in the future. Yeah, and for the next step after the disclosure, we will promote the verification from the third party to make this kind of disclosure more trustworthy. And that's a very good cycle to put the commitment in the real world. Yeah, concrete consequences of the. And for the research, China CICT, my group has been continuous enhancing the AI governance research collaboratively with Chinese enterprises and integrating industry practices in AI governance So we published several white papers to convene the vision, the framework, and the methodology, how to put this mechanism, this AI risk mechanism in each of the entities who are developing or who are using the AI technology. That's AI governance research. I think, will continue to this kind of research for the future. And AI safety benchmark is very technical work on how to evaluate and how to see the level of the risk management and what risks we are facing. Large language model safety benchmark has strengthened industry defense capability through monitoring safety baselines, sharing threats, and incorporating third-party test samples. So this activity convened by the AIIA for several quarters. We regularly release benchmark results publicly, and we have very good discussion with global AI safety communities to share the information and practice how to enhance the safety benchmark practice in the future. So I think AI safety benchmark is a very concrete technical method to know how to take action for the future. Also, China has established China BRICS Artificial Intelligence Development and Cooperation Center to promote global AI capacity building. Moving forward, international cooperation will be crucial, as mentioned by the previous speakers. So the AI capability compasses both development and governance through this center. We're also looking forward to linking the practical experience of enterprise from China and other countries around the world. So let's team up to shape AI governance that truly serves people, ensure an AI-live society up instead of leaving anyone behind. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wei Kai. Next, we'll have a joint presentation from Mr. Moises Maldonado, data scientist and innovation officer of the UN Refugee Agency, and Professor Lyudmila Zavanokina, professor of the Digital Innovation and Information System at the University of Lausanne, to speak on the responsible AI in humanitarian assistance.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Before I start, I would like to thank the World Internet Conference for the invitation to participate and share our experience at UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, on how to design a responsible AI system for this particular challenge, which is the targeting of humanitarian assistance in a very specific context, which is Mexico and Central America. And thanks to the Data Innovation Fund, we conducted this research and collaboration and this study in collaboration with the University of Lausanne. So allow me to share the presentation with Professor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much also from my side for the invitation. And what we brought with our presentation today is something actually quite different. So we're not going to speak about governance, but we looked into a very particular case of implementing a system and seeing what happens with it. So I would like to start with this. So currently, you may know or not, there is a big problem. So 123 million of people have been forced to flee their countries due to conflicts, due to violence, due to life-threatening situations. And particularly Mexico joins the top countries with the highest number of asylum applications. And this massive influx of people into the country is also characterized by the higher complexity of the protection needs that these people need. So there are so-called mixed movements, people fleeing for different reasons with different motives, but they go on the same routes and they travel the same routes. So these people in protection require service assistance, and one of the traditional measures to do that is the temporary cash assistance. And it has proven in humanitarian organizations to be an effective measure to help this population to support their basic needs during these travels. But the problem is that the humanitarian needs outweigh also the available resources, and one needs to think what to do about that. And to maximize the limited resources for this cash assistance, humanitarian organizations like UNHCR have the challenge of implementing a complex targeting systems and targeting approaches. So what is targeting? You have heard this word a couple of times. It is an activity of identifying and selecting the right people, the right individuals for the right assistance. So the right, I will take here like that. So what does it mean exactly? It may very much depend on the context and on the situation. And there are methods for that. So there are scorecard-based methods, geographical approaches, community-based approaches for targeting. And each of them have their certain limitations in the large-scale context. And one of the most well-used or widely used approaches is the so-called scorecard, which can be quite time-consuming, staff-intensive, and costly, because there are human involved, there are financial resources involved, and it relies on the assessment case by case of individual cases of asylum seekers. And this is one of the photos, how it is happening in reality. So you have one room of asylum seekers coming and providing an interview. So they are being interviewed by humanitarian workers. And each of these interviews take something 30 to 45 minutes. So you can imagine it's like people waiting in these rooms, quite unpleasant. And there are multiple activities that are performed. So one is this registration interview that I mentioned. So it is a complex data collection process. You have humans talking to humans. And this is one of the use cases kind of open for the use of AI. So you can have an AI agent listening to these interviews and doing the transcription while a human worker, so humanitarian worker, focusing on the person. So then there is also vulnerability analysis, which is an assessment based on the staff's expertise of the severity of the cases, of the vulnerability of the cases. But the issue there, yes, you can introduce an AI-based system, but the issue there is also to see what would it mean to have an AI agent making the decision or supporting the decision. But this process is also today may be biased, so may introduce some biases, human biases. So you need to balance out like how we make proper decisions there. And then the third one is the allocation of the resources. So one would need to prioritize the resources to make the decisions based on the availability of these decisions. And this is also the process that causes some delays. And there, as a potential use of AI, it could help optimizing this resource allocation to be able to deliver the help faster, not letting the people wait for weeks for these decisions, but maybe doing it close to real times. And based on that, we formulated the challenge for us. So how one would design an AI system to support, to enhance this targeting assistant process. But here is the challenge. So this is where the word AI comes in. We do not want to treat AI as a black box. So it's very much content dependent, context dependent, and just introducing a plain AI system to the situation with high stakes and to the situation which involves this urgency and crisis that may result in discriminatory practices. So if you favor one population group over others, or would cause harm to them by introducing biases that may be also like a result that one would not want, and it may happen with an AI system just because it had seen only the cases that are more widely spread and did not see the cases that are least spread. So with that, it's the challenge that we started with, and I think I cannot move through my slides anymore. Both are not working.
It's not working.
Okay.
I think
Okay, thank you.
now, yeah.
Sorry. The idea that we looked at, or the common practice is, yes, if you want to design responsible AI, you need to understand the principles of responsibility. It is good, and that's also today kind of a state-of-the-art approach. You need to have these principles, and you start with the principles. But then technologists actually like to play around with the technology, with new systems, and they tend to start with functionality, building the systems. But both have certain risks, and the idea or the metaphor that we take here is the metaphor of the tunnel. So it is the safest to build a tunnel from both sides. You should not start with the technology, but you also shouldn't start with principles only. You should start with both. So you have one side of the IT, of the AI artifact, of AI system, but then also the other side of the principles that one need to follow, and you have the middle ground is something that is your solution should be placed with. So this is something we took as an inspiration, so we consider both of the sides, and with this I can hand over to Moises so that he shares our findings.
Thank you. Thank you. So now let me take over and explain how we turn the AI principles into practice. So this is more on practice. So on the left side, we have the AI defining characteristics, and these characteristics are becoming more profound as the AI systems evolve, such as being agentic, autonomous, inscrutable. So these systems are more complex. And on the other side, we have the principles and values, in this case, the UN ethics of AI. So these principles are a common agreement between the UN ecosystem on the ethics of AI principle. So now comes the question of alignment. How can we align both AI and ethics into a responsible AI system? So we came up with this more pragmatic approach in terms of balancing the tensions. And for example, we have that AI is agentic, so it can take actions in an environment and they affect the environment. And this clashes with the principle of do no harm, or contradicts the principle of do no harm. So because this agent is going to exert some influence on the environment. So the idea to balance this for us, for this particular case, is to narrow down the agent to only make predictions in this case. So we came to the middle saying, okay, we want to have this agent, but only focusing on creating predictions and analyzing data. So then we have autonomy as part of the agent. And in this naturally clashes with the human autonomy and oversight. So what we found here is that we are going to rely on human making the decisions. So the agent creates predictions, but human has the final call on these aspects. And then we have systems that are dynamic. They learn, they evolve, they are not fixed. So in this case, also the principles of our societal principles and norms evolve, So they are not fixed, they are dynamic. And what we come is that it's very difficult to assign responsibility to a system that is changing, that is dynamic. So what we want here is to have a system that can adapt to new risks as this AI or this AI becomes more dynamic. Also, we have inescrutable, and we are claiming of transparent and explainability. But these are black boxes, so it's even more difficult now to trace how they process internally, how they reason internally. So what we come up is that we want to have a system in which we can trace the data and make it more reliable in terms of knowing where the data comes from and how it influences the outcomes. So have reliable outcomes. And finally, we have other two. They are adaptable, and this, of course, these systems adapt, and we want to have them in a context awareness governance element. So why? Because a simple fairness metrics are insufficient. They are not enough in terms of, so it's a more complex relationship than just establishing fairness metrics or ticking boxes or having just simple criteria to measuring these principles. And well, this is our at the abstract level. So we came up with these 6 features: agent make predictions, human make decisions, resilient, reliable. But these 6 features need to be operationalized, so transformed into something that can be designed into the system. So we came up with 4 design principles based on these features. And the first one is that we provide qualitative analysis on the generative paradigm. So processing the interviews, we create this generative analysis and provide information to the users so they can analyze and process information. And the second design feature is that we provide a quantitative analysis, more on the paradigm of predictions. And in this case, we rely on LLMs and automated machine learning. So you can see that this is complex, 2 different technologies with different responsibilities. So how do you manage and assign responsibility to 2 systems that are different? And after this design principle, we have a clear role separation, which means that the people that design the technology is normally not the same that make the decisions. So we want to have a clear separation between those building the technology and those that make decisions, and allowing the user to override any incorrect advice. In case the AI provide incorrect advice, that the human can have the ultimate call. And finally, we want to detect also, by processing all these interviews, some bias detection or fraud, because sometimes interviewers or also humans can have some prejudices about the population. So we want them to be allowed to spot these inconsistencies, and sometimes also the population provide false information or incorrect or misleading information, so we want to also have this. I'm not going to be in very much detail about the demo because of the time that we have, but we can, of course, share more the information about the demo of Kashi, which is the proof of concept under a larger project that we have at the Innovation Service, which is the data analysis framework. But just to mention that we build this based on the value-sensitive design methodology, which is focused on 3 main iterations: a conceptual investigation. So we build this based on focus group discussions. We create a stakeholders interview, and also on the technical investigation, which is the second iteration. All this corpus of interviews from 4 years, since 2020, we process them. It's a huge amount of data processing these interviews. And we've done this integrated in 2 different types of AI: automated machine learning and large language models. And finally, we want to test this solution in an experimental approach. So what we did is we created an online experiment with UNHCR staff in a sandbox environment. This allows us to control more the outputs or the consequences of the tool, so we can safely test the tool before releasing to a further extent. So the experiment is pretty basic. So what we did is that we have 2 groups. One that assesses the plain AI that Ludmila mentioned, which is just the AI processing the registration interview, and a second version, which is the responsible. But we make here something on purpose. So we introduce bias into the system to see if that affects the staff. So we want to know not only how effective is the tool, but also if introducing bias into the solution can affect also the decisions from the UNHCR staff. But the outcomes or the recommendations were the same, so which means that we want to test if the users were allowed to detect this bias on the system. And finally, we asked them to rate our tool based on the 5 principles I described earlier on responsible AI. So what we have as results is that we expected this, of course. First, that the staff would found the responsible AI version better aligned with responsible AI principles. And this means that when they saw the 2 versions of the tool, they say the responsible AI, it's more aligned to these principles in 4 of 5 criteria. And then we want to measure the effectiveness, and we found that the targeting system outperforms the traditional non-AI. And also from the evaluation and feedback received from the staff, they expand this saying, okay, all the benefits of having this type of solution. However, what is interesting for us is that we label one version as responsible. But this labeling, the staff couldn't detect the bias in this case. By labeling something as responsible, they were not allowed to reject the advice. So in the plain AI, they successfully reject 90% of incorrect advices. However, on the responsible AI version, they only reject 65% of them, which means that they have a sense of trust when you label something as responsible. And this leads us to our takeaways, and we would like to paraphrase this famous quote from Plato: the worst form of injustice is pretended justice. So in this case, the worst form of irresponsibility is pretended responsibility. And we are UN agencies, we are not experts on building tools. So for us, it's super important that making sure that we have a real responsible, not just a product that claims to be responsible, right? So this is, and the second, do you want to take the other?
Yeah, related to the halo effect, one of the bigger risks is once you label a system responsible, it can create a false sense of trust. So in that sense, for users, for humanitarian workers, and also organizations, there is a risk that they rely on it too much or like blindly. And once you want to scale such systems across operations, then humanitarian organizations need to take this into account and to deal with that. And part of it is, yes, education. So I would fully agree here. There is a big risk of over-reliance. And finally, yes, there are also limitations. So for us, it's a running study, so we're still doing the analysis there. And it may be also quite context-specific. So in that sense, my encouragement also to you, to the practitioners, would be not to see the AI as a black box, but really to look into the particular context, into the particular consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Maldonado and Professor Java Lokina. Now please welcome Mr. Pan Feng, Deputy Director of the Peking Cyberspace Administration, to speak on advanced people-centered AI. He will speak in Chinese. You can use the translator on the table.
OK， 谢谢。首先呢，尊敬的梁浩秘书长、弗朗西斯主席，各位 AI 领域的专家，大家好。也特别首先呢，还是特别感谢啊。 受这个世界互联网大会的邀请，来参加呢，这个围绕人工智能就北京发展呢人工智能的情况，跟大家做一些沟通。那么在瑞士的联邦大厦的穹顶上，实际上刻着拉丁文铭文呢，就是"人人为我，我为人人"。 那么我们认为呢，这与人工智能发展高度契合。那么人工智能从数据开放到模型开源，从创新合作到普惠共享，那么与整个我为人人为我和我为人人的肝胆相照和荣辱与共的旗帜精神，应该是非常的契合。那么近年来呢，北京市也是秉持这一理念，那么大力发展开放、创新、普惠的人工智能，那么也是推动人工智能以人为本，那么向上向善。那么在此呢，也分享一下。那么首先呢，我们呢是坚持开放共享，我们呢积极的鼓励大模型技术和算法开源开放，那么支持开源模型的研发和开源社区生态的建设，打造了覆盖模型、算法、数据的大模型开源技术体系 Flag Open， 那么推动了文心一言、质朴等一系列的开源模型上线来提供服务。我们也聚焦城市大脑、智慧政务、智慧民生等相关领域，那么利用区块链技术，那么实施了公共数据的开放，持续地扩大了普惠供给。同时，我们也在加快构建高质量的人工智能的训练语料集，推动数据资源的开放共享。那么二呢，我们是坚持合作和创新，我们大力推进通用人工智能企业的创新伙伴计划，围绕算力、数据、模型、应用，汇聚产业链的上下游合作伙伴，构建政、产、学、研、用的深度融合的协同创新体系。那么推动呢，像我们的豆包、K 米等132款的文本和多模态的大模型上线，那么推出了原生的多模态世界模型物界 EMU 的3。我们也以应用为导向，那么深入的实施了人工智能+行动，在机器人、教育、医疗、文化、交通等行业领域培育形成了一大批的 AI 的创新应用企业。我们建设了覆盖600平方公里的车路云一体化的高级别自动驾驶示范区，那么自动驾驶的乘用车、智联的网吧的 bus 以及无人配送车都在有序的行驶。那么小马智行、文远知行以及新石器等自动驾驶企业，那么累计测试里程超过了3500万公里。那么今年的4月，我们还举办了人形机器人的半程马拉松比赛，像天宫、小顽童、灵宝等21款机器人同场竞技，那么有力地促进了人工智能的技术突破和发展。那么现在目前在我们北京还在举办人工智能的运动会，相关的足球、配送等行业还在推动发展。那么在这儿呢，我们想特别推荐一下，目前我们同时还在举办北京市2025年的 AI 创新大赛，我们设置了全民创作、专业攻坚和职业应用3大赛道。那么也欢迎呢全球的 AI 企业，尤其是的 AI 的创作爱好者和专业人士报名参赛。那么比较遗憾呢，这个当时呢有一些外文，但是大家呢通过 AI 可以非常简单的完成外文的互换。那么参赛的入口，大家看一下，就在这个2维码上，大家可以现在扫一下，进行报名。那么3呢，我们在坚持公平普惠方面，也做了一些工作。我们积极呢应对人工智能本身存在的内生风险。刚才呢，实际上他们这个也讲了一些。我们以这个虚假内容的传播、网络诈骗、信息泄露以及滥用人工智能领域所导致的问题，那么规范了生成式人工智能的服务，那么推动 算法向善与公开。我们在治理算法的歧视和侵权行为，那么禁止利用算法、数据和平台的优势实施垄断和不正当的竞争，维护社会的公共利益，保护公民、法人和各种组织的合法权益。我们在积极地构建普惠共享、公平可及的数据基础设施方面，那么推动全民素质素养与技能提升，那么促进人工智能在教育领域、技能培训、产品和信息公开方面更加共享，那么弥合城乡、区域以及人群之间的素质鸿沟，那么不断提高人民群众在人工智能领域的获得感、幸福感，尤其是安全感。那么各位女士、各位先生，那么近年来呢，我们在积极地推动国家服务业开放试点综合示范区和自由贸易示范区的建设，我们内部简称是两区建设。那么持续地扩大高水平的对外开放，那么致力于打造数字友好城市。那么瑞士的诺华、罗氏、雀巢等一大批的知名企业也在北京落地生根，取得了丰硕的发展成果。北京呢，既是国际的科技创新中心，也是全球经济领域的领先城市。可以说，城市之活力十足。那么，创新动能强劲，数据的资源丰富，产业体系完善，应用场景广阔，市场空间巨大。可以说，发展人工智能的优势得天独厚。那么，北京呢，作为这个瑞士的洛桑，是国际奥委会的总部。那么，奥运精神强调卓越、尊重和友谊。那么，这个和人工智能发展以及它的安全的匹配性高度契合。北京作为冬奥和夏奥两届奥运的双奥城市，我们积极的、诚挚的邀请各位在座的人工智能的企业和大咖到北京，欢迎到北京投资发展。我们也将持续的营造开放、健康、安全和遍地的国际营商环境，不断强化政策的支持和要素保障，让企业投资放心、创业安心、发展顺心，为全球的人工智能产业和数字经济发展贡献我们的力量，也让 AI 更加的美好。欢迎大家去北京，谢谢。
Thank you, Mr. Pan. Next, please welcome Mr. John Hedges, co-leader of the Standard Program of WIC on AI, co-founder and chair of the Global Digital Foundation, to share his point on AI governance.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very well done for sitting through 2 hours of presentation so far. I will try not to take too much more of your time. The title of this topic 2, Industry, Practice and Global Collaboration, and I hope to particularly return to industry practice at the end of my short remarks. First, let me say what influences, what shapes what I'm going to say to you. And I'm going to speak to you from the perspective of someone who has been involved in the governance of many organizations, the governance and management of many organizations in the not-for-profit sector, in the private sector, in universities, many organizations I've been involved in management and governance. And I want to put AI governance in the context of the governance of organizations. So the argument I want to make to you is that organizations are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to put good governance in place. And I want to explore the challenges that organizations have based on the information that's available in my short remarks. So a quick recap on the current state of play, I mean very quick. a little introduction to the latest organization in the Global Digital Foundation family, which we're now calling the International AI Governance Association, and I'll talk to you very briefly about that. But I mostly want to talk about the key challenges to effective and efficient AI governance. In the organizations that I've been involved with, when we think of governance, we think of that overarching set of values, systems, and mechanisms by which an organization's behavior is governed. What do we do? How do we know we're doing the right thing? Now, I'm mostly talking about organizations that want to do the right thing. I think the other organizations probably go to a conference called AI for Bad. But the ones that would come to AI for good are the ones who do the right things. And I'm pleased to say the organizations I've been involved with so far have all been trying to do the right thing, whatever that is in their context. And these sorts of things include what are the ethical values we follow? What's our attitude to risk? Some organizations want to take more risks than others. They want clearly to comply with the regulation of the day in the markets in which they operate. So the regulations in different markets, in different geographies will vary. And they'll want to be confident that the administration of all that is efficient and effective. So when I've, for instance, chaired audit committees, we've looked at what's the process that we have in place in order to be confident that we're complying with the regulatory environment in which we operate, but also the social context in which we operate. As you know, organizations can follow all the rules and fall foul of public opinion, and organizations tend not to prosper if they do that. And of course, all of this is underpinned by frameworks, codes, and we've already heard mention of standards, because standards are a very good way of demonstrating compliance with regulation. It's not the only thing that standards do, but it's particularly in Europe a very good way of doing that. Now, the state of play of that underpinning bar, the standards frameworks, is just, some examples. As you know, we could fill many slides with these things. There's, in Europe, the AI Act, there's the Safety Governance Framework in China, and many others. And this, in part, is the challenge that organizations have. Your example was another great example of a framework, a methodology, an approach that people need to be aware of. Little segue into what's the International AI Governance Organization. It's an organization currently for individuals. We started this about 3 years ago, called the AI Assurance Club, and we brought together individuals who wanted to work out how to do the right things in this emerging field of AI, but they didn't know how to do it, frankly. We had a sort of engineering mindset, much more about, as we heard earlier, the practicalities. Like, what should we do then? How do we do it? Our ecosystem, and of course there are many more boxes than this, I'm sure, the ecosystem's drawn from many parts of the AI, if you like, the AI ecosystem, I suppose is the right word for it, really. And the reason that those two boxes are highlighted in green is because, in many ways, that's where the action is right now. The standard setters and the certifiers against those standards. But there's, interestingly, a growing market of assurance providers, whether that's a Deloitte or an Ernst & Young or law firms. There are law firms. If you go and see DLA Piper here, you'll see they have a very big practice in helping their clients comply with the regulatory environment. So the complex value chain, and we have individuals from all of that as members of the association. We're on a journey to form a proper association, just as I think WIC did. We will probably become an AI SPL in Belgium, which seems to corner the market in international associations. One of the key things we've done over the last few years is a global dialogue on AI governance, and particularly comparing and contrasting developments around the world. Last year we had guests from Europe, Singapore, China, Japan, all sharing notes, really. How is it for you? Oh, it's like this for us. It's much of it is about that standard practice, because what we're trying to focus on is enabling organizations to do the right thing by sharing best practice with other people. How do you do it? Oh, we do it like this. And I want to finish in a moment with some stories of companies and organizations that I've spoken to give you a flavor of what industry practice is really like today. And if you get this sort of stuff right, then it does help global market access for companies. If you want to operate in a market, I mean, Europe's a classic example of that. If you want to operate in what we call the internal market in Europe, you have to demonstrate compliance with the regulatory environment. But what are the main challenges then? And I picked out 3. So many organizations say that because of the lack of legal certainty, they're very much at the early stage of compliance readiness. They're just not ready. So if you press them today, are you compliant? They would say, well, actually, we don't really know what we've got to be compliant with, so the answer's got to be no. Of course, as we know, and as we've heard, the standards are incomplete. And Sensenelec still, whether they would say they're at an early stage, they might say they're at a middle stage now, but they're certainly not in the end game. And a thing that many people haven't yet appreciated is there's ambiguous interaction, particularly between some sector-based regulation and the horizontal regulation, and that leads to uncertainty. So where you have almost conflicting demands, my vertical sector that shapes what I have to do, say, in medical devices, demands I do this. How does that tally with what the horizontal regulation for AI is telling me? How do I resolve those conflicts? And there's much work being done at the moment to try and bottom out what that conflict means. So maybe this is a better diagram, really, rather than that first one. And that's to say that the underpinnings really are a bit wobbly. They're not solid enough. And that means that our governance structures within the organization, remember I'm talking about this from the perspective of an organization trying to do the right thing, the governance structures, the underpinning standards, frameworks and codes are not good enough to rely on. And let me just pick out sort of 3 examples of that. So I recently spoke to a very large pharmaceutical company. And I said, what are you doing with AI? And one of the things that they said to me was, well, we're trying not to do anything spooky. I said, okay, well, how do you know you're not doing anything spooky? And they said, oh, that's really quite a good question, actually. We don't know. We're using our own judgment and we hope that what we do with AI in our company, our customers will think is acceptable. We don't know. So there aren't the guidelines, so a bit tricky for them. So fingers crossed they get that right. I talked to a university recently, and the chief digital transformation officer deploying AI throughout the university. What frameworks are you relying on? I said. Well, we're developing a playbook. How mature is that playbook? To be honest, it's very immature. We're sort of trying to follow the OECD principles. We're keeping an eye on the EU AI Act, but we're in the UK, so we're not bound by it. But we're following those things, and we're developing a playbook. But I think the playbook is still very immature. And yet this is an organisation, £500 million turnover organisation, deploying AI at scale, no real playbook to do it. And I think that reflects the situation in many organisations. And then last week, I think, Wendy mentioned that there's an organisation that's just relatively recently sprung up called the EU AI Champions. And if you look at that, there's not a single tech hyperscaler among them. These are companies like Airbus, Mercedes, Philips, and what they say in their letter, they're increasingly concerned by the unclear, overlapping, and increasingly complex regulations coming out of the EU. And they ask for a pause. Please give us another couple of years, because you're asking us to put in place our organization's governance structures, but you haven't given us the underpinnings on which to build that. So we've got to fix those foundations. And if there's one thing I want to see in this report that WIC and I are producing in WIC Standards Committee is a call to action from the SDOs and others to please press ahead with these frameworks and standards, because we as organizations, whether you're obviously I can't speak for them, a Philips or a Mercedes, we're trying to deploy AI to good effect in our organization. We need to know how to do that so we can do it safely. So please get on and fix it, and I hope that's what our report is going to point to, because I genuinely believe that most organizations want to do the right thing, and those that don't, frankly, that's another issue, cybersecurity, enforcement, laws, and so on. But let's work with the organizations that want to do the right thing, and let's help them put in place effective and efficient governance mechanisms, AI governance that's built into their overall governance. And we as organizations, you around this table need to help those organizations who want to do the right thing. So please, let's crack on with it. And with that, I'll draw to a close. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, please welcome Dr. Noah Luo, Chair of ITUT Study Group 21, to address the role of the standards for responsible AI.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and also distinguished guests. So my name is Noah Luo. I chair one of the study group in ITUT, Step 21. Yes, I would like sincerely offer my thanks to the very kind invitation from WIC today. To me and to ITU, I think it stands for an exceptional opportunity for sharing, for learning, for exploring further collaboration and seeking better mutual understanding. It's on my side. Yes, good news is my presentation will be very brief. So I think I have the shortest presentation for today, only 6 slides. Talking in the terminology of the ITUT, you may ask, what will this number stand for? Actually, study group 21 is the youngest study group among the 10 study group and the T sector, ITUT. We are responsible for technical standardization development. Previously, we were known as Step 16 and Step 9 separately, but I think it's a decision we achieved based on consensus. ITUT WTIC 2024, New Delhi, India. The decision is that consolidation needs to take place. So we now become bigger and wider. We are called Study Group 21. So the topic previous are respectively multimedia, technology, digital service is from 16 side, and from the 9 side, they were more focused on the cable television. Now, we combine those parts together through the consolidated effort. You can see the AI part now growing. So we try to encompass the AI technical problem we try to apply to the both sides. So with the convergence industry needs to be met with convergent technology in a united community. So we try to expand, enlarge our domain and broaden the scope. So with stronger expert teams in place, we hope we can do more for AI. I really love some slides from previous speakers. Example from Mr. Higgins. He placed the standardization on the one of the infrastructure, so underpinning role. So we are quite proud if we can really play some underpinning role to support the achievement of responsible AI. Well, in my understanding, there are different layers. How technical standardization can play some role in contributing to the development of responsible AI. First, in general, you know, open standardization, especially international standardization, they provide the very solid support for responsible AI because it safeguards openness, fairness, transparency, security, trustworthiness, and also accountability. Of course, you can place even longer list of objective, reliability, whatever. The second layer, that is more specific to the ITU, to the role ITU can play, because we are a specialized agency under the United Nations in the ICT domain. We have unsurpassed competency in weaving a network by steel to produce responsible AI standard. We are, proud of our long history, reputation, knowledge, expertise. Probably we hope we can place us in the center of the COBWIC that will connect a different organization. Here, if I had a chance to remake my slides, I really love to include one of a very good figure from Professor Zheng Yi, Chinese Academy of Science. I think his understanding of the interconnection between different bodies, UN and the United Nations, and with outside organization, I think it's a rather, faithful portrayal of the current landscape in my understanding. Also, on the top level, in my study group, we are dealing with multimedia technology and digital service. We're absorbing elements from subject 9 to study content delivery and cable television. That will enjoy the riches to the maximum audience globally to serve the global population. So because we understand the majority of the AI data today is multimedia related, so intelligence is becoming more and more multimodal and even embodied, that will give IC21 a quite special and unique role to play. While having said so much about the good, don't let us forget there's some alarm out there. People, are very careful and cautious about avoid AI for bad because we are people of good intention and conscience. We don't want to believe there's something we can call AI for bad. It doesn't mean AI itself is bad, but it can be misused and abused for evil purpose. So we can do a couple of things, for example, prove authenticity, verify provenance, and prevent falsification. This is 3 things we can contribute. Actually, we are already working on this in conjunction with ISO IEC with other bodies. However, I think we are just one drop of the ocean. In Chinese, we are Changhai Yisu. We want to contribute, but we are not so ambitious to believe we can solve many problems. The solution comes with collaboration with other bodies. It's my belief. Well, this is AI standardization in my study group. So the history began in 2018. With pride, we can see we created the first AI-specific standardization question in the ITU history. So you can see we try to put them together, text, audio, image, video, and multimodal. So this is the equation we believe that we will place in the work. So the term of reference for study group 21, in particular working party 3, we try to include all these elements in our standardization process. This structure gives you another view. The several major branches we are standardizing in the AI context, data, system, implementation, and QoS, QoE for performance metric. not all those standards are technical in some sense. We try to provide the support to achieve a responsible AI from a people-centric point of view. For example, QoS, how people will perceive the AI-generated contents. Will they be happy or will they be comfortable? So we try to provide some support. Well, this stands for different families of recommendation, like assessment criteria, and also artificial intelligence general content. So over the last couple of years, we understood AIGC is playing an increasingly central role. We start developing certain recommendation in this area. Also, we have metric performance for AI processor. I just heard, this is the last slide. Yeah, that's good news. I heard some speakers mentioned, the big business may should have played some active role in help us achieving responsible AI. Here, we see the good signs. More and more big companies are, actively engaging in our activities. To name just a few, Microsoft, InterDigital, and from China, we see those big internet company, Ali, Tencent, ByteDance, and also communication wonders like Huawei, ZTE, many others. Of course, we also have the CAICT. Okay, so just some numbers. We did some substantial work, and 47 standard projects have been completed with internet standard published, and 55 ongoing active work items. We really welcome people, to come to have a look to see if you will be interested in joining some of the ongoing work items. And also, this kind of dialogue will help us to understand how we adjust our direction to give the responsible AI a better support. Okay, I stop here. Once again, I would thank you very much for this kind of invitation from WIC. Excellent opportunity of exchange. Next time, probably if I have sufficient time, I really encourage some break during the two sessions, between the two sessions, so people can get to know each other. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Luo. Lastly, we'll welcome Mr. Chris Brown, Advisor of Standard Programs of WIC on AI, Director of UK Actions Economic Integration Program at Britain's Standard Institution, to share UK AI development and collaboration.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. I know it's well past the cut-off date, so I promise to be short and to the point, and hopefully say something of interest. I'd just like to take this opportunity to brief the audience somewhat with my BSI hat on, British Standards Institution hat. In terms of global collaboration, what we've been doing with the UK government on updating the industrial strategy, which was published last month, which may provide some food for thought. And as you'll see, we have the theme of AI going through this strategy. And some of the aims for boosting global collaboration, so between UK with my hat on and our global partners, in this case, really China. I think one is the aim of promoting free and fair trade through strong international partnerships, and I think the key word there is fair. But it's a pragmatic approach to navigating the current geopolitical volatility in a tech-driven world with the disruptions caused by the emergence of advanced AI. Secondly, driving and supporting innovation As we know, the technology revolution has opened up the huge possibilities for innovation and economic growth. And as we know, AI, automation, robotics, digitization, augmented and virtual reality, medicines, advanced materials, 3D printing, and new energy technologies transform how we live, work, and improve health and resilience. UK has some of the best universities in the world. I think we have 4 in the top 10, and the UK is second to the US in the value created from university spin-offs. And thirdly, I think the aim of enhancing skills and increasing access to talent with an increase in technology training, digital skills, and particularly the AI plus education, as Wendy mentioned earlier. As part of this strategy, we've looked at 8 priority sectors, and we can also see how AI might fit into some of those. First would be the advanced manufacturing sector to spur innovation, automation, digitization, and commercialization. Some of the key manufacturing sectors would include automotive, batteries, aerospace and space industry, advanced materials themselves, agri-tech. Secondly, in terms of creating all the creative industries across the UK, UK exports more books than any other country, second largest art market in the world, the largest video games industry in Europe. Our advertising companies sell the services across the world. Many of the most watched streaming shows are made in the UK, but there's also huge threats associated with this because of AI. Thirdly, digital and technologies, including AI growth zones, which I'll come to in a minute. Key technologies being advanced connectivity technologies, AI, cybersecurity, engineering, biology, quantum technologies, and semiconductors. Fourthly, life sciences. We're looking at health data research service to create, we hope, one of the world's most advanced, secure, and AI-ready health data platform. More to be heard about that from the politicians. Fifthly, clean energy, manufacturing innovation, producing the next generation of technologies to support the global transition to clean energy. And 6, AI integration in professional and business services sectors, so such as accountancy, audit and tax, with the aim to incentivize companies to expand into new areas such as ESG reporting, environment, social, and governance. Legal services, where the emergence of new technologies such as AI could push innovators to agree contracts and settle disputes, and thirdly, management consultancy. 7th in the priority sectors would be financial services, to rebalance regulation for growth, cutting red tape for fintech firms particularly, and driving forward initiatives to open up more private capital to boost investment. And then finally put here defense, and particularly the kind of the spillover benefits, not just defense itself, but spillover benefits through innovation, exports, and scale-ups. So in all of this, with AI, I mentioned there is a plan to establish growth zones across the UK, develop an AI value chain as part of a strategy to make UK an attractive destination, to invest in AI and as part of our global collaboration, create an AI-ready economy through better AI infrastructure, access to legally available data, AI adoption across the economy, innovative regulation, and developing and attracting elite AI talent. So that is the theory of what's behind it. In terms of what we at BSI are doing, we are working with the government and with our partners around the world to reduce trade barriers, to make it easier for new and emerging technologies to be commercialized. And in particular, we are working on publishing a strategy setting out our approach to influencing global digital standards. The challenge really in all of this is how we make it all happen, how society can benefit from AI and not be marginalized. I told you I would keep this very brief. I'd just like to thank you, all my friends at WIC, for their invitation, and I hope we can continue our collaboration well into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. To all our speakers, a huge thank you. Your insight, based on the cutting-edge research and real-world experience, have made for a truly valuable discussion on developing responsible AI. We really appreciate your great ideas and solutions. Looking ahead, this November, the Wuzhen Summit in China will feature the forums on AI innovation and governance, AI for science, AI for health and education. Key reports like the global AI standards and the report on the Explore framework for global AI safety and governance will also be released. We warmly welcome your participation and contribution. We also hope you will keep supporting the WIC, especially through our essay on AI, to drive forward international cooperation on AI. So thank you all once again, and this concludes our workshop. We're looking forward to see you soon. Thank you.